The battle over the big, beautiful bill shifting from Capitol Hill to the campaign trail, with both parties saying it will define the 2026 midterms. House Democrats launching a campaign digital ad buy on Meta. This targets the GOP over their support for the mega bill. They've identified 35 Republican-controlled House districts they believe can be flipped next year. Republican leaders expected to sell the bill in swing districts over the coming months. I want to bring in Florida Congressman Greg Steube. Congressman, I want to get initially your reaction to now what we are seeing. This is going to be the Democrat strategy for the midterms. They're going to use the bill.
Yeah, they're going to try. But what's going to be interesting is by January of next year, the impacts of this bill, no tax on tips, no tax on manufacturing, all the different permanency of the tax rates that we did in this bill. The American people are going to be seeing that early next year, especially the tax credit we gave for those on Social Security. And it's going to have a huge economic impact to the electorate. And the Democrats keep wanting to say this is a tax cut for billionaires. Billionaires aren't making tips as they're waiting on tables at restaurants. Billionaires aren't on Social Security. And so these impacts to the American people, the working class of the American people, they're going to see this, and it's going to be a huge economic impact to not just the country, but to the Republican base because of the policies that the president passed.
Well, look, I mean, you've already heard Ro Khanna on Sunday and this kind of, I think, echoes the chamber that we're hearing from the Democrats. And in particular, when it comes to the changes to Medicaid. You know, hospitals are closing, health insurance premiums are going to go up, millions of people are going to lose health insurance, et cetera. But within Medicaid, and I think this is where the messaging has been interesting, it's 80 hours a month that you have to show that you worked, 80 hours a month. A lot of people, Congressmen, work 80 hours a week. Things like that were in those Medicaid decisions, those cuts. At the same time, you've got reconciliation coming. You've got rescissions coming. So aren't there more places that we can cut? And where would you be willing to make cuts in spending so that we don't completely blow out the debt in this country, which is already sitting at $37 trillion?
Yeah, I support massive cuts to a whole entirety of government programs that we have. But unfortunately, we have, well, not unfortunately, but we have moderates in our party that obviously can't support the type of cuts that somebody like me would support. I would love to put us on a path in 10 years to a balanced budget. But we weren't able to do that because of some of the more moderate people in our district. But Democrats are going to say that hospitals are going to close, and the American people are going to see that those hospitals aren't going to close. And to ask working age Americans who are childless to have to work and show work requirements and to be a citizen of our country is not something that the American people think is unreasonable. And so as the American people see what's really happening with this bill, the cost savings that we do get from putting work requirements in Medicaid, getting the fraud, waste, and abuse out of the system, and they're going to see all these parade of horribles that the Democrats constantly say are going to happen isn't happening, and we're saving money. This bill saves $1.7 trillion. They're going to see we're on a path to a balanced budget. We're doing the type of things we need to do to get our country back on economic footing that we need.
Yeah, well, and again, we've had several lawmakers come on the program and say that we're not done. There was more work to do, but we had to make sure that the president's agenda was advanced, in particular extending the 2017 tax cuts, and the bill is now law. Let me move on to some of the events unfolding at the White House last night, because Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told President Trump yesterday he nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize, presenting the commander-in-chief with the letter that was sent to the committee. Congressman, I want to get your reaction to that, and also kind of what you heard play out in this dinner in front of reporters between Israeli officials and U.S. officials. And we should also add that Mr. Netanyahu is going to be on Capitol Hill today, and maybe you're going to meet with him. You tell me, sir.
Yeah, I'm shocked that President Trump didn't win the Peace Prize his first term after negotiating the Abraham Accords. That's a historic agreement between Arab nations and Israel. You have other countries now, like Syria, that's wanting to be a part and having talks about being a part of the Abraham Accords. You've seen what he's done across the country and in the world as it relates to peace. And I think he's absolutely deserving of this. And I think it's very telling that Netanyahu recommended him for this prize. There's a lot of other things that are going into these different countries wanting to be a part of the Abraham Abraham Accords. You see what he's doing with Gaza and the Israelis, trying to negotiate some type of peace there. So absolutely well-deserved.
And again, do you plan to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu? He is going to be making the rounds. He's meeting with the Vice President today, Vice President Vance, as well as Speaker Mike Johnson. Do you think you'll see him?
I would love to. We're back in the district. The speaker gave us time after the big, beautiful bill passed, so I'm back in the great state of Florida. But I would love to meet him at some point and talk about the things that we can work together as Republicans in the House to make these type of trade deals across the country.
Okay. All right. I guess the background behind you should have given that away to me. All right. So let's talk about Florida since you're home. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis vetoing a study on property tax brought by state senators on how local governments use tax revenues and what would happen if taxes were eliminated or reduced. So the governor says the study was unnecessary and that action should be taken instead of analyzed. Congressman, your reaction to that?
Yeah, I agree with them. I vote against consistently up in Washington doing studies to know about things and get results about things that we already know the answers to. The governor has said very clearly that he supports a property tax decrease and eliminating property taxes in the state. I actually support that. I think that would be a huge boon for Florida. Not only do we not have an income tax, but then doing away with the property tax would be great for the economy in the state of Florida. We don't need some type of study done to know that eliminating property taxes is gonna help Floridians that live in our great state that own property. So obviously, the study is unnecessary. He's made his position very clear. I support his position on that. I think reducing property taxes versus reducing the sales tax is a much better way to go for residents of the state of Florida.
Yeah, he compared it to paying annual taxes on your television from Best Buy, which I thought was interesting. Congressman, you recently introduced the Revitalizing Investment, Savings, and Entrepreneurship Act. It's called RISE. It reduces risk on capital investments in American industries. What's the goal here, sir?
Yeah, we're lowering the rate from 24% down to 15%. Just think about as an entrepreneur or investing or even in real estate where you're having to give 25% of the money that you make away and you're not able to reinvest that in your different projects. So this would lower that rate from 24% to 15%. I'm doing it with Chairman French Hill. So I think we've got a lot of support behind that to move that through the process. Maybe in the next reconciliation bill, if that happens later in the fall, this can be something that can be considered.
All right, we'll continue to follow your work on that. I do want to ask you about what's happening with the border and also with Democrats, because the White House is now urging Democrats to tone down the ramped up rhetoric against ICE agents after a Border Patrol facility was ambushed by a gunman. This happened in McAllen, Texas. Agents were forced to return fire. They did kill that suspect. But the Department of Homeland Security told Fox News that assaults against ICE officers and federal agents are up nearly 700% year over year, Congressman. And you also have calls for people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to maybe she needs to sit down with ICE agents. Maybe sit down with the men and women that are trying to keep our communities, our cities safe, so that this rhetoric is pulled back, because that rhetoric is leading to, as you know, doxing against these agents and concerns about the safety of their families.
Yeah, Democrats have gone from defund the police to attack the police, and the rhetoric is obviously having significant impact on the lives of Border Patrol agents. Attacks up 700%. So, yeah, toning down the rhetoric and the talk and comparing ICE agents to Nazis, which is absolutely ridiculous. Toning that down obviously would benefit our hardworking law enforcement agencies and ICE agents who are enforcing the law and doing the exact thing that the American people elected President Trump to do: get criminals and terrorists and all these different individuals who are committing crimes in our country out of our country.
Congressman Greg Steube, it's always great to see you, sir. Thank you for being here. Come back anytime.